Merry meet everyone and welcome back to My Pagan Life as always. Today we're here to talk about the so-called B.O.S, aka the Book of Shadows. But does it really have to be a book? Well, let's talk about that. Now I know I've titled this video a Book of Shadows tutorial, but the most important thing for me to communicate to you with this video is actually the fact that a Book of Shadows does not have to be a literal book. For instance, this is my Book of Shadows. I have an entire video explaining why I'm using this as my Book of Shadows. It's linked in the description and you can also find it at the end of this video. The point is, that's not what I'm going to be talking about today. Today I just really want to talk to you guys about how I use this folder as my BOS. You know, kind of how it works and, for that matter, how you can use it as well. The first thing you need to consider, of course, is to either find, buy, or even make a folder that you like, that has the structure and design that you prefer. Mine is really simple. It's really just a plastic folder that is completely black. Now the second thing I've done is to have different sections, or the folder divided into different sections, and then dedicating each section to a topic relevant to Wicca or witchcraft. The whole point of a folder, obviously, is that it is divided into sections, so that's not the work you really have to do. All you have to do is kind of get an overview of how many sections you have and kind of what different categories you can have in your folder of shadows. As you can already see, the folder has different sections, and I'm going to tell you what the different categories are that I've added to this folder, and I'm going to put them on screen so that you can see them more easily. But they basically are crystals, herbs, spells, rituals, ethics, mythology, magical food, elements, correspondences, liturgy, the Wheel of the Year, and extras. These are kind of like the categories that make sense to me, to my understanding of the craft and my craft specifically, and that kind of helps me structure my content in a constructive way. Now the third thing I want to add, which is kind of my next point, is that you just basically add a bunch of documents to this folder, whether they're handwritten or they're printed or whatever. And related to my next point is kind of on this subject too. How do you make your information or your documents that you add into your folder interesting? And this basically goes for any Book of Shadows that you're planning. If you're writing by hand, use colors, make illustrations, maybe even try some fancy handwriting if you haven't tried it before. I just really admire people who put in the time and effort and love into their Book of Shadows to, you know, that they actually do that. And if you're one of those people, make sure to let me know, because I am super fascinated. But as you've probably understood by now, I'm a person who prefers print because I suck at my handwriting. My handwriting does not look good whatsoever, in my opinion at least. And as someone who works with digital media, I love working with fonts. I love using pictures, digital photos that I can add into documents and then structure those pictures and that text and the colors in the document to make it look really structured. So that's basically my tip for those of you who want to go with print. Don't be afraid to, you know, experiment with typography or different fonts, and to add pictures and colors to your documents that you can put in your Book of Shadows, because it will probably bring it more to life. Of course, it's still up to you, but that is what I prefer to do. But now I've been talking a lot, right? But I actually want to show you some physical examples of what I've added to this Book of Shadows. So yeah, let's just start with a simple one. In my category called liturgy, I have like a few simple papers that are basically just font, and I just want to illustrate for you guys what I've done with this paper. This is a document where I've added the 13 goals of a witch, and as you can probably see, I've added one title font here, and then I've added a font that is a little bit more easy to read, but that is not as fancy. And this is what I've done throughout my entire folder of shadows, or Book of Shadows, is that I've taken one font and made it like the designated title font, and then I've used other fonts that are more intelligible or readable as like the main text. And also, if you look closely, the font that I've used for the titles or for my folder of shadows is actually the same font or the same typography as I use in my channel banner, in my intro, and my outro. I just really like the font, you know, basically just staying consistent. My next example here actually has a larger text and has a picture in it, and this is part of my herb section where I basically have one document for each and every single herb that I can be bothered to write about. Say I'm writing about an herb, for instance, and I'm basically just writing about the characteristics of the herb. I'm describing what it looks like, what it has been used for throughout history, and what nutritional contents it mainly consists of. Then I also have a dedicated section underneath titled Relevance to Magic, where I just quickly explain how the herb is in some way relevant to witchcraft, if you will. And then I just add a picture that I found off the internet, which I think is the appropriate size and that I like the colors of and that matches the aesthetic of the rest of the documents. Or I can take a picture that I've taken myself, but it just really depends. For instance, I just showed you my honey document, but I also have others, like for instance, yeah, you can probably see it half decently. And it's basically that same layout for every single one of them. Let's see if I can find another example. I actually have one on Ruby. But one thing I really do also want to bring to your attention is that if you feel like you're starting to get a lot of papers, a lot of documents into one place and it starts to get difficult to sort out, make mini booklets. And this is so fun, in my opinion. One example I have under the extras category, and I've made a mini booklet of the runes of the Elder Futhark. I didn't get to staple it all the way, but it's all together in one document, so yeah, it's decent. When I start getting a lot of papers into this folder, I will start to like put them together so that it's easier to kind of look through them. And that was basically all for my Book of Shadows, guys, or as you might also call it, a folder of shadows. And while we're at it, I'd like you guys to tell me what your Book of Shadows looks like, if you even have one, that is. And with all of that said and done, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content on this channel. And until next time, guys, blessed be from My Pagan Life.